RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, opinions, or statements of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information on this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on this show is not necessarily an endorsement, and as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of Comfy Sunday. As always, I'm your host, RP, and joining me live in the studio tonight, as always, your co-host M3, and a very special co-host, Craig Mason, from Craig Mason's Reasonable Conversation channel, a favorite of Red Pill News. I hope everyone's having a great day. We've got plenty of things to discuss. What's up, Punisher? What's up, all of the mods? Joey Mormon, I see you out there too, buddy. Do me a favor. Don't forget to like and share this broadcast on your favorite social media platform. Help us break through the algorithm. We're going to be doing some thank yous at the beginning of the show. I got a care package this weekend. Do me a favor, sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a very brief word from our sponsor. Well, friends, there's a famous old saying that goes, "May you live in interesting times." And we certainly are. Our world is so sharply divided right now, even our basic American right to free speech is under a heavy attack. In fact, my channel here is being suppressed. I've been shadow banned, and it's because I'm not politically correct. If they want to take it all away, you might wake up one day and find that you can't see my content anymore. Perhaps nobody will, unless you know to look for me. It's a sneaky, underhanded form of censorship, and it's all because certain people don't like what I have to say. Now, since I depend on revenue from the product partners I promote, if no one can find or see my content anymore, then I'm out of business. Goodbye, Red Pill News. I certainly hope that never happens, but these days, anything. And that's why I teach self-reliance and emergency preparedness, especially when it comes to your food, water, and other vital necessities. As you know, I fully endorse the products from My Patriot Supply, and the advertising revenue I receive in return helps me pay my bills and enables me to keep bringing you great content like this. But any day now, that might stop. So please prepare in advance. I'd like to make a special request. If you've been planning to buy from My Patriot Supply but you've been putting it off, now is the time to act while you still can. If you've already purchased what you need, I want to thank you sincerely. But as you can see, for the time being, the future isn't looking much better than what we've just been through. Frankly, it's probably going to get a lot worse leading up to the election. And that's why I urge you to take a moment right now and go to preparewithredpill78.com and make your purchase while you still can. My Patriot Supply is the only source I personally use and trust, and you can too. And right now you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious meals your whole family will love. My Patriot Supply makes it easy to be prepared at all times, and saving $100 off a life-saving 4-week supply of food is too good a chance to pass up. The future is so uncertain, I urge you to go to preparewithredpill78.com and get ready now. Once again, that's preparewithredpill78.com. Do it now, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, friends, thank you so much and welcome back. Obviously, since you can see my lips moving on the screen, that means that you should be able to hear me. I just don't want to get too far into the show and then find out that my microphone is not working again. So if I can just get a 5x5 in the chat, letting me know that you guys can definitely hear me, I would so appreciate it. I just want to say hello to Jojo, Leslie. We saw J.R. Majewski out there. Wheezy, of course. A special appearance by Space Shot 76. I also saw my mother and Real Red Pill Girlfriend. I don't know if you're out there, but honey, I know that you always are in spirit. You're listening even if you're not chatting. All right, so good news, everybody. You can hear me. I actually did get my new microphone today, and it is the exact same microphone that Craig has. I want to thank Susie specifically for that, and I'm going to go through and thank everybody for the variety of things I received in the mail. But before I do that, I want to first welcome once again Methods, my co-host. Methods, how are you today?
Man, I'm doing good. Just been enjoying watching the mainstream media lose their minds over our movement. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm happy to be here at another show. Great guest tonight.
Absolutely. It is a special time to be alive. And Craig, how prescient that I made that commercial, because you told me something about you and your wife. But, besides all of the other tech glitches, how are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. We're great. The thing with my wife is that right before I was about to go on, she was looking for the stream and she said, I was unsubscribed from Red Pill's channel. I know I was subscribed. And so, they're always up to it with manipulation. But overall, I'm feeling like we are winning by so much. I don't know what inning we're in or what quarter we're in of the football game, but I think we're up by a lot. It feels like I'm just ready to staunchly defend against any DS tactics in these remaining 70 or so days until the election.
Absolutely. To coin a phrase from baseball, I'd say it's probably the top of the ninth. Okay, like we're in that home stretch. Most definitely, we are almost there. I too feel like we are winning. I have a great feeling about this. I don't wake up every morning and just cross my fingers that nothing's going to go wrong. I feel like we are so far beyond that. I mean, any information that we need to wrap up this investigation and put people in prison, I do believe that John Durham and the good folks at the Department of Justice have in hand. So I'm not worried. I did a story the other day talking about the comedy that was the dumpster fire of the DNC, and Rasmussen had done some polling, and I frequently say, don't trust polls. I mean, don't wake up, look at a poll and say, oh no, President Trump has fallen by 5 points, that means we're going to lose, because whatever it is, they can manipulate that data. But the punchline of the story was that despite whatever they've done to manipulate data in the past, even from their own polling numbers, the approval ratings of President Trump and Joe Biden flipped as a result of the DNC. Okay, so everything that they tried to do, the messaging they tried to send, it had the reverse effect of what they were hoping it was going to have. So regardless of whoever it is that they're polling, it looks like nothing is working in terms of what the Democrats want to do.
Oh, yeah, it really seems like they are losing big time. And in regards to the polling, that's an interesting topic, because Rasmussen was actually pretty close to the actual line in terms of the popular vote in 2016. Who knows how much the D's had their fingers on the scales? I don't know, but they were pretty accurate in terms of the reported results. Additionally, it is interesting that you mentioned that it is going up and that's going down. Trump is ahead of where Obama was at this time in his presidency. And it is also always done by likely voters. And I think that there's going to be a lot of unlikely voters who have been red-pilled over the course of the last 3.5 years, because there are lots of people switching parties from D to R, but I don't think the other way around. And people that have been totally not interested in what's going on are all of a sudden red-pilled and more excited than anybody I know. A lot of these people that are newly red-pilled, they are more excited than I am, or a lot of people who've been watching this for a long time, because their world has been totally rocked and they're so excited to vote for Donald Trump or whoever else. I wore a Keep America Great hat out yesterday for the first time in a while. And people that you wouldn't think, if you were stereotyping your average Trump voter, what they say it is in the fake news, people were saying, hey, I like your hat. And it wasn't everybody who they'd stereotype would be that person. So I think that the likely voters might not be as likely as they think the turnout they get.
I mean, that's an excellent point. Enthusiasm is at an all-time high. I mean, I thought that people were, excited at the very least just to get somebody else in there besides a Clinton, okay? But the people who wanted to vote for Trump, I felt like really gung-ho about it. There was a certain segment that were like, okay, I'm going to vote for Trump just because it's not Hillary. But now, today, anybody who voted for Trump back in 2016, I feel their enthusiasm level is just, leaps and bounds over what it would have been in the past. And then, to your point, all of those people who are freshly red-pilled and just angry about what's happened to them throughout their lives, they, too, are extremely, extremely excited. I don't know a single person who voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and is legitimately upset with anything that's happened. Maybe, key issues or whatever, but overall, you look at the overall progress of the United States and what's happened to everybody here, despite everything they've thrown at him. The country is in a much better situation than it potentially could be. If it was a Joe Biden, if it was a Hillary Clinton, and any of these other things had happened, I think we would be in the death throes of another, great recession. We would be, 2008 times 10, go back to the great stock market crashes of past, Black Monday, 1930, any time like that, it would not be like we are today. There are still people thriving. There are still people who are not necessarily doing well, but I feel like there's hope. Whereas before it was always, wow, how long is it going to take us to claw our way back from the brink?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Trump is in a unique position that he's been able to do these things, or it is unique that he wants to even do these things, because what they never thought would happen is the overreach of the government would end up in the hands of someone who actually wanted to use it for good. Mm-hmm. So Trump's doing all these things by executive order. He's not letting them do all the things that they want to do to subvert America to China or anybody else. And he's taking this overreach of the government they've taken, and he's using it to turn the economy in the favor of the people, to make the stock market go up, to not just pay off cronies so they can buy more power and continue the same horrible cycle. And it's kind of the opposite of why George Washington didn't want to be a king. They don't want to have to do the power, even though he might have been a good guy. Mm-hmm. They don't want to give him too much power for when the bad guy takes it. The bad guys didn't realize that when they give themselves too much power, what happens when a good guy takes it. So I think Trump is, it's just amazing to see what he's been able to do and what is possible. And it shows how much what they were doing was on purpose to make our society into not the America that we know and love. Once again, the great America. They hate that. That's antithetical to what they like. And Trump is doing it, and people are so excited. I mean, I'm so excited. I think a lot of people are so excited.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Okay, let me do some thank yous from the care package I received yesterday. As I said earlier, thank you, Susie, so much for that new microphone. I am going to be, over the next couple of days, going to get set up. There's some tinkering I have to do with my system to make sure that it works. But Space Monkey sent me a bucket of Chicago-style popcorn. I broke my diet, and I ate some of it, but the rest of it's in the kitchen. I'm going to go through it slowly so it doesn't shock my system too much. Blue-Eyed Texan sent me this awesome boot Christmas ornament. At least I'm assuming it's meant to go on my Christmas tree. That looks like it's going to be perfect there. Mary65, thank you for the donation. There was an Anon in Greenville also sent me a donation. Phyllis as well, thank you very much. Robin in Colorado Springs, big donation. I appreciate it. Also, Jim in the chat, he sent me a donation on my daughter's birthday on August 9th that I missed. So I wanted to say super, super big thank you for that. I really, really appreciate it, guys. Erica in South Carolina. Brian and Elaine in North Carolina. Lance sent me a stack of DVDs, and I need to distribute those. Thank you very much, Lance. And finally, ByeByeBirdieDesigns.Etsy.com sent me this handmade upscale jewelry box. This is going to Real Red Pill Girlfriend. You can see my my studio in the background, but it's a jewelry box. It's hand painted. It had a wonderful letter that came with it, and I got to be honest. I never thought that opening my mail would be like the highlight of my day, but I absolutely love it when I go out on the porch and there's a package. And it was Sunday. I got a package from FedEx on a Sunday, man. That's how hard they're working, keeping the economy going. All right. So, Methods, what's going on with you, brother?
I'm just over here appreciating your appropriate sports ball reference. That was great.
Did I use it correctly?
Yeah, no, I'm sure in your head you were waiting on to be called out, but no, you did good. I'm proud of you there.
I was like, we're going to test this, see if it works.
Right, yeah. We're going to catch you with a tab open with different baseball references.
One of my monitors. That's all it is baseball right now.
Yeah, but to that point about the enthusiasm for President Trump, people who voted for him in 2016 are definitely going to be voting 2020 for the most part. We don't have or see a walk away from Republicans movement like we have for us now, walking away from the Democrats. So you don't see that. Yeah, we get a couple rhinos that come out and make claims, or old, retired military people that were a part of the old guard, but we don't see a lot of that happening. You think there would be if we want to buy any of the polls that are going on, or at some point. So his base has just got nothing but Trump's base has got nothing but stronger. Mm-hmm. You could see it, you could feel it. And I'm very interested in a fair election, which we're all fighting and hoping for, what the numbers would be if everybody got their vote correctly. Like, to me, I don't know. What would you think? I was having a discussion with somebody. What percentage do you think in a complete fair election do you think Trump would get?
I mean, if we're talking just the popular vote, I mean, I have to believe it's probably 60 to 65% of the country. I mean, I guess I don't know the breakdown of how many people really are in those major metropolitan areas. I mean, I still think that anti-Trump bias is really high in, I guess some key thick areas in California, in New York. It might be even larger than that. I mean, you look at the rest of the country. I mean, overall, I think it is supportive of Trump. But I don't know, Craig. I mean, you're better with numbers than I am.
Well, before he moves on, let's ask the chat there, and they're already giving their numbers.
70 to 75%.
Yeah, what's the percentage that you think Trump would get in the popular vote in an honest election? But yeah, Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, I think if it were held today, it'd probably be something like you were saying, Redville, 60%, 65%. But there's still 70-something, maybe 70 days until the election, and public awakening is their greatest fear, and timing is everything, are both things that our favorite Anon has said. And there is so much dirt that they've held back with, I believe, the intention to release around this time. Dirt around the Obamagate. Yeah. Our favorite Anon has said, what if someone in a 3-letter agency said they wanted to assassinate or suggested they should assassinate POTUS? What if there is 5.5 raw vid evidence, HRC, impossible to defend? When people see what the true face, welcome to the D Party, when they truly see what that is, I think that number, it will be impossible to defend the D Party when they see how they've all coalesced around, as Trump calls them, the party of corruption, communism, disgusting late-term abortions. When they see what the D Party is really about, I think by November 3rd, that number could be 80 or 90 or 94 to 96%. If only 4 to 6% are lost, then we get to that point of the Great Awakening by then. But I think from now till October, the Great Awakening will only exponentially accelerate, and that number will get higher and higher.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This is something we've said on the show quite a few times. If they released all this information like 6 months, a year ago, then the Democrats could have buried it under another host of scandals. The attention span of the American voter and people in general, I'm not going to single anybody out, but a person today has the attention span of a gnat comparable to what it was, 100 years ago, okay? We are inundated with media, we're inundated with stories, we're inundated with things that are meant to distract us. So if this information would have come out 6 months, a year ago, then it would have absolutely been buried, and the Democrats would have changed the narrative. So by making sure that it is an October surprise, and this is going to come out as close to the election as they possibly can scrape by, it's going to be the only thing on people's minds. I want people to walk into that voting booth, or, be in their kitchen, checking it off, whatever it is that they have to do to get that vote in. But to be thinking about how big a crooks these people are, about how if they vote for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, they're looking at, maybe life in a gulag or a re-education camp, or having to hand over a 75% wealth tax, or whatever it is. I mean, we've got to make sure that everybody understands how dirty these people are. And, and there's some stuff coming out right now. We were talking before the show, Craig, about the, how much we're winning. And it seems like they keep incrementally releasing these things. That's every single day. It's another damning thing against the deep state, against the FBI, against Hillary Clinton, and this weekend has been no exception. I feel like there's been a couple of really good stories that came out this weekend. Methods, there was that story about the FBI. They were investigating a foreign government trying to get involved in the Hillary Clinton campaign. And rather than getting a FISA, they chose to go and warn the Clinton campaign, which is so strange because they made up this whole Russia collusion thing, and they just chose not to tell the Trump administration, or the Trump campaign rather, and they went and got a bunch of FISA warrants so that they could spy on him.
Right. And just real quick to the point out in the chat, I appreciate y'all's optimism on the percentage. I think it would be about 70% of the popular vote, 65 to 70. But yeah, some 80s and 90s out there. I appreciate it. And we'll fight to get it as close to that as we can. Now, as far as what Red Pill just brought up, if we now have a declassified document, because we all understand that sauce is that important, or source for people that get mad at us for being adults saying sauce. That we have an actual document proving that the 7th floor of the FBI, we're talking Comey, McCabe, all those clowns, were, instead of like following the same rules that they follow with Trump, they did the FISAs around him because of Russia, they went after Carter Page, everybody. Instead of going that route, they said no. They put the foot down and said, instead of going that route, we need to warn Hillary, which to me would make sense, because you need to cut it off first and then investigate otherwise, right? At least that's what I would do, instead of doing a honeypot around an election like that. And they didn't do that. They made sure Hillary was aware of it. She ultimately made it, quote unquote, go away, which is still curious in itself. And that information is making its way. I'm sure it's already there, but they're saying it's going directly to Durham for his investigation. So the biggest thing that the Democrats try to push is that you have no probable cause that we were targeting the president. Well, here's a part of that probable cause. You went out of your way to make sure that Hillary didn't go through the same things that Trump did, her opponent.
Okay, and my mom just told me it was Jack, not Jim, for the donation. I knew I should have written it down. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Jack. Sorry, Jack. Let me also just say these other donations before I forget. Deborah, late last night. Thank you very much, Deborah. Also, Ann said you should include guests' infos in the notes. I actually do. It's in the description. I'm assuming you're talking about my guest last night, Judith Rose. All of her relevant links were in the description of the video. And anytime I have somebody on the show, I did that for Craig today. So the show notes, in terms of just like my daily shows, I put the articles and stuff in the pinned comment. But when it's a live show, it goes in the description. Also, Cyrus Parsa was on the show on Friday night, and he sent me a generous donation. Thank you, Cyrus. Spicy Conservative says she needs prayers. She's in the path of Marco and Laura. We've got 2 hurricanes coming, and how strange that the storm has arrived at this juncture. Also, J.R. Majewski. What's up, J.R. Majewski, the Trump lawn flag guy, who is, I think, working on changing it to a different color, red, for the election. But this stuff about the FBI warning Clinton. You said this is the way that you would have done it. I think that any law agency that was worth a salt, would have done it that way too. But by showing that they're going to treat Hillary Clinton one way and they're going to treat the Trump campaign another way, it just shows the orchestrated bias to a great degree, because this is not the only time that they had a different playbook for Hillary Clinton and a different playbook for President Trump. I mean, if there's anybody out there in the country who can't see this bias and how just corrupt everything was at the FBI under James Comey, then I don't know what to tell them. I think the only thing that's going to get that picture in their head is Jim Comey doing the perp walk down, Constitution Avenue or wherever it is in Washington, D.C., getting arrested, by his former FBI agents. Craig, what do you think about it?
Well, I think that it is interesting to see how many times we continuously see, they did this, and that appears to be corrupt. And by now, I think if you've been following this for a while, which I know a lot of people here have, it's like, okay, more evidence that this was not on the up and up. But I think we've been trained to understand by reading the drops, the 4,000 plus drops, exactly how, or at least a good framework of how they totally set up Trump. And then they investigated him during his administration, and they spied on him before and after the election, and then they impeached him on also at best shaky ground. And they sent people to jail affiliated with it for I guess maybe technically crimes, but when you compare what they did morally to what it seems like a lot of people on the D side did, I think it's going to be a great precedent when people like Comey do get perp walked. And I think it's going to be pretty obvious when the real dirt comes out, as we were talking about a few minutes ago, when it becomes even more obvious, more painfully obvious that this was a setup job. They can go back and read the Strucken page text. Trump said the text we've seen, they get 100 times worse than the text we haven't seen. Mm-hmm. And so I think we'll see those, and it's going to be so obvious to the average person when they see these people perp walked, and the fake news will say, oh, Trump, he's using Attorney General Barr to prosecute his political opponents. And we'll be there to say, okay, well, let's look at what they did. They sent people to jail for what I would think is 100 times less bad. And now you're saying that this is a miscarriage of justice, and they always project everything. It's always a projection. Every single thing they do, they say Trump's abusing the FBI and the Justice Department, and he has a corrupt attorney general. Well, they're outing themselves as doing the exact same thing to Trump, to cheating, making things up, all for their political advancement because they didn't like that they were losing. They always project. I think that's what they're doing. It'll be blindingly obvious to most people.
Did either of you guys catch Jim Comey on Face the Nation this morning?
No.
Well, I mean, he was being interviewed by, it looks like her name is Margaret Brennan, which is interesting, thinking about John Brennan. We'll talk about him in a minute. But, I mean, he said that he's had no contact with Durham and that he doesn't believe that he's the target of the investigation. I'm wondering if it's even necessary for Durham to interview Jim Comey. I mean, considering all of the people around Jim Comey taking orders from him and, being overseen by him at the FBI, and also Jim Comey's own statements about the documents that he stole that he took out of the FBI when he got fired, giving them to other people. I think he's made quite a few incriminating statements, and I think that there's a lot of people who worked with James Comey. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, are you surprised that Comey hasn't been interviewed by Durham, or do you think maybe that's a head fake?
I don't know what the heck is going on with Comey. I mean, he's one of those guys that I wonder if he's playing a stooge or if he's really that out in outer space or what's going on with him. I mean, he came out before the last election and said the whole thing about Hillary Clinton that it seemed like was certainly not helpful for Hillary. But then he seems like he's on after the election and during the investigation that he's helping these criminals do things. I don't know if he's playing a part or what's going on, but it's very strange. I really don't have that much of a take on Comey other than that it's strange, and he certainly was mixed up somehow, but I don't know how.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, think about what's been coming out. We have somebody Kleinsmith, who actually came out and pled guilty to falsifying evidence. That set up the entire Mueller investigation, or at least led to it. It's not surprising to me that these people are coming out and talking. And to anybody out there that caught wind from the media saying that Brennan is not a target or all that information, of the investigation, that came from his own aide. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who that is. So I don't trust him. And you can't really trust anything that the mainstream media is propping up and giving a chance to talk like that. They're going to step forward and say, I don't think it's this at all. I thought I was fine. And then as soon as something happens towards them or anything in their orbit, like a Kleinsmith, they're going to say, we're being targeted. I've been telling you the whole time that, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't even think that I'm a target. And then if something happens, they're going to take it that way. But as far as the stuff like these documents coming out, like what we were just talking about with the seventh floor and Hillary Clinton, more and more, I get why people are having, okay, well, that's not a big deal. They're not locked up yet. Why do we care? Blah, 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 yawn. I get all those replies when I put tweets out like that. And to me, think about this time in history as a drop in a bucket of what we can look back on and having all this evidence laid in front of us to where we could piece together over time and hand to the next generation. To say this is what happened in detail, point by point. They put it out over time. They were systematic. They took care of it. They made sure everything was, verified, and they handed it to the public piece by piece so they could be fed like birds to understand what's going on. And that, to me, is fine. If anything, I can appreciate evidence because, a couple of years ago, we weren't getting any of these documents. Mm-hmm. We were getting memos written, about stuff, not necessarily, and we were waiting on reports from the IG. Now we're getting actual documents that nail them to the wall. So it's just, but that's all being put in Durham's hands, and we have the investigation stuff going on. So yeah, things take time, but we're going to look back on all this and say, wow, a lot happened in just a few short years.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Craig, to your point, I think Comey was trying to play both sides of the fence. He knew that if he didn't say something about Hillary Clinton, it was going to reflect very poorly on him. But he also knew that if President Trump came into office, they had this plan B that they were planning to enact, and then maybe he could still get Hillary Clinton in there. So he's kind of playing this dumb Boy Scout who's out here, fumbling around and, I'm just trying to do the right thing. But now with Durham not specifically targeting Comey, probably because he has enough evidence to convict him of a number of things. That's my opinion. But also John Brennan stating that he was told he's not a subject of the investigation. I'm reminded immediately of when James Comey told President Trump he wasn't the subject of an investigation, and he clearly was. Okay? Just because you are the subject of an investigation doesn't mean that the investigators have a responsibility to tell you that. In fact, it's a better thing if they don't tell you that, because that leaves you with a sense of security, and you can continue to go about your business, maybe being sloppy, leaving evidence laying around, perhaps making phone calls and text messages, hey, don't worry about those indictments, we got away with it, there's lots of different ways that this could play out. But I think that it's ridiculous for anybody to, be freaked out thinking that John Brennan is not the subject of the investigation. I mean, of course he's going to say that. Of course his people are going to say that. He was interviewed for 8 hours on Friday. I mean, methods. I can't think of another person in this investigation that was interviewed for 8 hours. I mean, he must have had a lot of information to give, and I would imagine that Durham is extremely smart and probably asked him all these questions at such a late juncture because they had already interviewed so many other people in the intelligence services who have given them information which is most likely contradictory to what Brennan said.
Right, and Brennan called it a non-investigation, a month or two ago?
Mm-hmm.
So why would he willfully go in there and talk for 8 hours unless there was more to this situation than we're being handed?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that to me, to be a fly on the wall, that the pay-per-view to be the fly on that wall would be incredible, because I would want to hear what's being asked, because I don't see it as him just sitting there casually and asking him questions in the form of Brennan's helping him out solve what happened before. To me, it was a full-blown interrogation type thing, all because he didn't get put in handcuffs on the way out the door, leads me to believe that there's a lot more going on here. And we have to think about, this isn't just about what Brennan did during these times of the investigation of Spygate. There's other investigations going on that we probably have no idea about into all the activities of what Brennan was doing, because you unturn one rock during those circumstances and it would lead to other stuff. It's not like Brennan was on the up and up and was a good patriot, but he just didn't like Trump, so he decided to break the law.
Yeah. Now, USMC Laters in the chat asked if we should still trust the plan. Brother, I got to tell you, that's what you're looking at. We are still trusting the plan. We're just talking about the way the plan is playing out. I don't think any of us are, big-headed enough to believe that we know what the plan is. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it can change at any moment, and it could have been planned that way long in advance. I mean, we are just here as spectators trying to dissect, the moves that we see on this chessboard and figure out, what it is that's going to come next. And probably, a fair amount of times, we're all going to be thrown, for a loop when the answers truly do come out. I mean, Craig, what do you think? You still trust in the plan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I only trust the plan because I think it makes a lot of sense. Trust the plan doesn't mean you can't verify or think if the plan makes sense. You never said, don't question. He said, question everything. We're allowed to question the plan. We're allowed to think about the plan. He says, think for yourself. He never says, or they never say, excuse me, don't think about the plan. Question everything but the plan. Be a blind follower of the plan. No, the only reason I ended up here, because I was making videos before I got interested in Q, is because it makes a heck of a lot of sense. And whether or not there are indictments tomorrow or next week or November 2nd, whatever the dates are, it is not being indicted that's their greatest fear, because you may recall a certain financier, J.E., was indicted on charges before involving minors, and he was back in his minimum security resort and out on the weekends, basically. So it's not just an indictment here they're afraid of. It's public awakening that's their greatest fear. So as long as the public awakening continues, then I think the promise of they won't be able to walk the streets will come true. And as one of you guys mentioned a minute ago, there could be other investigations. There could be bigger slam dunk charges coming. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But what I do see every day that makes me trust the plan is that when I go back and look at it, it makes a lot of sense. But what I really see is that people are waking up more and more every day on faster than I expected to this point, this is the first time in the Great Awakening that I'm thinking, wow, this is going faster than I expected. Normally I think, oh yeah, we've got it done. And now we're just going so fast. So it's not done. We haven't won, but I think people are waking up every day, and that's really what they are afraid of.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, go ahead.
No, I don't mean to cut you off, but on this trust the plan thing, we've heard that said so much, it kind of became mantras that it might lose its energy behind it, because it kind of just speaks for the overall of what our favorite Anonymous said. But when people ask me that, I trust that investigations are happening. People are going to be held accountable based on the law, based on the evidence that's presented. I believe that the president supports that. I believe that a lot of patriots support that. And I believe the president is trying to do the right thing in any situation, not just allowing these people to be held accountable. So if that's the plan, as far as getting things back to law and order, getting things back to how the America that we were told was already happening, but it was all lie for the most part, that to me, I trust that we're working in that direction. Yeah. I believe we're being led by God's hand in this. And I do believe, watching what's happening now with everything going on, people waking up, people helping each other, the unification of patriots around the world, that to me is a plan that's being followed through. We just have to keep going.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I mean, there are so many moving parts here, and I think that the plan is to get to a stated goal, okay? We want to set humanity free. We want to wake people up. We want to take out these people and hold them accountable. Now, USMC later is clarified and says, I meant Christopher Wray. Are we supposed to trust Christopher Wray? Well, how do you interpret Q's phrasing of trust Wray? I mean, do we trust Wray to do what they expect him to do? Do we trust that Wray is going to be dirty in the same way that the people that preceded him are? Do we trust Wray to dig his own grave? I mean, there's all different kinds of things that we could read into that. So, and quite honestly, a lot of what is said here, is interpretable in that way. I mean, I think that many different people can put a variety of spins on these things and, make it make sense. But I mean, that's how I see it. I think that Christopher Wray had a job to do. I think that he did it. And regardless of, whether or not he's trying to protect some other interests, he was there for a reason, and they're going to get rid of him when it's time to get rid of him. I mean, President Trump, as I've said many times, has a habit of taking people he can use, putting them into positions, and then when they're no longer, useful to him, he removes them and somebody else comes in. I mean, look at John Bolton, okay? So many people were so upset, so worried about John Bolton. We're going to go to war. John Bolton wanted us to go to war, okay? He was, sweating in the back seat, thinking about how excited he was that we were going to destroy Syria and probably a variety of other, Muslim nations. President Trump didn't fall for it, okay? He had John Bolton there. John Bolton advised him. President Trump, said, thank you for the advice, John. I'm going to go my own way. And then he got rid of him. Nothing terrible happened. And, as far as I'm concerned, everything is in good order. Let me just say thank you to Lisa. Thank you to Deanna. Also, thank you to Marie. Thank you to William. Thank you to this one. I need to make sure I say the right thing. The Great Conspiracy says, The Great Awakening Journalism, where we go when we go all, and where we go when we go all worldwide. Hunter, thank you very much, Hunter. He says, nothing to see here. And then also Chapman, okay, thank you very much. That's it. I won't say anything else. Okay. You mentioned Jeffrey, the billionaire, the deceased billionaire, or perhaps that's in contention. I don't know. Either way, I don't think it really matters. He's not on the scene anymore, and there's other people that are going to take accountability for this. But the Virgin Islands have subpoenaed investor Leon Black in this case. Now, if you remember, there was, I don't know, maybe like a month ago, there was some more information that was coming out of the Virgin Islands. They were themselves starting to go after some people. Methods, you had originally sent this over to me. What's your takeaway on this?
My takeaway is that we still have things going on, investigations happening that we're just not hearing of. They leak out to the media in some points, and we get a little glimpse on it. But there's things being worked on around the clock. And when it comes to somebody like an Epstein, there's so much there's so many different moving parts, like you said, when it comes to, who was he handling money for, what different countries are involved, different people in different big businesses. So this just to me lets me know that there's still stuff going on behind the scenes, even with him, not deleting himself. We still have moving parts going on.
Yeah, I like to remind people we're not in the Department of Justice. We're not in the FBI. We're not in the clowns. We're not in the wizards and warlocks. We are just people watching from the outside. So there will inevitably be many, many things happening behind the scenes that we just are not privy to. And we have to, be okay with that. Allow that to just release it to the universe and just continue on with your life. And we can show up to have, these kinds of talks right here to, maybe think about as many of these things as possible. This is interesting from William. He said, my wife was in line with her Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president mask, and others in line stepped aside saying, wait on her first. She supports our president. If that is not symbolic of the movement that we're seeing in this country, I don't know what is. It definitely gives me a lot of hope for the future, and perhaps I do need to think a little bit harder about the percentage of Americans that are going to be supporting the country. Also, Lisa said, love your show. Keep up the great work. Godspeed. I appreciate that, Lisa. And that is it. That is it. So thank you very much, guys. Craig, what do you think about the impending Maxwell/Epstein investigation?
I think there's got to be so much evidence there. If they've been watching and collecting evidence, and you can see these old pictures coming out with Bill Clinton and people affiliated with that whole cohort of, I don't want to call them criminals because they haven't been tried in the court of law yet, but people that I certainly wouldn't want to associate with. And not only do they have her, who probably have GH, who probably knows a lot. They have flight logs with BC on there. And there's just from every direction. I can't remember who said this, but the walls are closing in on them from so many directions. You have them from the one side with the horrible, filthy crimes, like not just corrupt, but like really, truly nasty crimes that involve JE and the island and the tunnels and the footage and the raw video. They have that. And then on the other side, you have just the general white collar, I guess you could say, but worse than that. It's not just white collar crime of stealing money. It's subverting democracy. It's conspiracy to defraud the United States. It's subversion. And Trump keeps calling it treason. So they have treasonous people, which is pretty indefensible. I mean, you could say, people could say, oh, well, the people who started America, they were treasonous to the British Empire. And it's not the same, because I don't think they're fighting for freedom by any means. I don't think they're trying to fight an oppressive government, even though they may bill it that way. But then beyond that, if you're going to buy that, if that trickery somehow works, you cannot defend the other side by which the walls are closing in on them. Impossible to defend the horrible crimes against children. I mean, the things that are coming out and the massive awakening of people realizing, oh my gosh, there's been this horrible problem of people abusing children, and it goes to all directions from the bottom up. It's like people didn't realize before that, oh yeah, they catch the low single one-off child predators, and they think we've got a handle on it. Don't you think that there's high IQ, rich child predators too? And where did they end up? Where would they go? Would they go to the agencies that deal with these things where they have access and little oversight? Mm-hmm. And they're starting to see what is really going on. And there's just so much to come out there. It's impossible to defend. It's really going to wake people up. I think we're seeing that more every day.
Yeah, I mean, the awakening specifically on this subject seems to have really ballooned. I mean, we've got a variety of protests taking place all around the country. Our Real Red Pill girlfriend sent me some video footage earlier today. She drove by some people that were on the side of the road with signs. They were protesting, Save the Children. And now it looks like even the left, the Black Bloc Brigade at these BLM protests, they are now imitating us. They are showing up in Save the Children garb in an effort to try to, I guess, disparage the movement, throw shade on us, make us look like we are the violent ones. But as soon as those people get arrested and they pull up their records, you're going to see that they're the exact same people that were arrested dressed as, in black and, fighting the police just a couple weeks earlier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing that's so interesting about, or what I think is going to be interesting about when they inevitably try something like that, is that as soon as it happens, you will have Anons here and elsewhere and everywhere YouTube and wherever else, you will have them explaining logically why it makes no sense to disavow Trump and Q as the result of some lone wolf or fake group of people. They will explain to you the evidence that this has been done many times in the past and why it doesn't make sense to disavow ending massive systematic corruption because of the actions of some people. And they will point out how people from this movement have been saying, we do not want this to happen. We are against violence. We're a peaceful movement. And it will spread like wildfire, this news, through the back channel news network, the We Are the People news network, the We Are the News Now news network, that is being formed and strengthened every day by everybody watching, everybody here on these different platforms. I don't know if it'll take minutes or hours, but it will, or days, but it won't derail the Great Awakening as much as they want it to. The old tricks, it would work so well when they had control of the narrative, when they had the fake news in control. They're losing control, and that's why public awakening is their greatest fear. It's just like in The Matrix, where sorry, this is a spoiler if you haven't seen The Matrix, but you're watching Red Pill 78, so you should have watched The Matrix by now. So sorry for the spoiler. But at the end, when Neo realizes that he has the power to stop all these tricks, and he thinks these agents are so powerful that they can go and in the past they were able to just basically kill the other good guys. And now he just realizes he stands there with one hand and just defends them endlessly because they know the tricks no longer work. Once you see that it's all a lie, then the bullets stop in midair and the derailment of the narrative no longer works. And I think that's what's going to happen when they try this, because this network is so strong. In fact, I just retweeted on Twitter. It was Julian Thrum. He said, I just had it and I lost it, but he said, enough have already woken up. It's over. They lost. They can try what they want. And I'm not saying to throw in the towel. No, we have to, drive this home based on Red Bill's sports ball analogy, which I think is apt. We have to drive it home and defend our massive lead. But as long as we keep our eyes on the prize, I think we're winning. And they cannot derail us no matter how hard they try with any FFs or anything else.
Yeah, confidence does not equal complacency. We can be confident and just keep moving forward all day long. But obviously, I don't think we have much of a problem with complacency here in this movement. I mean, so many of us have been just trampled and downtrodden for so long. All of us have had something happen to us as a result of the actions of the deep state, the cabal. Now, to your point about their attempts to derail us, I think this is an excellent time to bring up that clip of Chris Wallace and Mark Meadows' methods. You want to set this up for us? And then I'll go ahead and play it for the audience, and then I'll make it so you guys can see it too.
Right. Basically, the media is trying their hardest to get those sound bites out of the Trump administration to disavow this movement. That to them is, they have two things going on here, and I'm going to just give me a second, Red Pill. They have two things that they're trying to do here. One, they're trying to get the president to disavow us, so we are either discouraged or it works against us or we might quit or anything like that. But that whole point of we've already won, they've lost, when we say we're winning or we have won, it's because we've been fighting the last 3 years to wake up the public. And now we're at this point to where we take things down, like Craig said, within quick amounts of time. So that's what to me is like we are winning in that case. But as far as this clip goes, they were trying to get Mark Meadows to, agree with the media and these other rhinos and Dems calling us out and all that stuff. And Mark Meadows handled this exactly how he should. I don't want to really spoil it too much, but go ahead and play the clip, Red Bill.
All right, here we go.
You can end this controversy right now. Does the president disavow, does he condemn QAnon?
Well, listen, we don't even know what it is. I can tell you, you've spent more time talking on it, Chris, than we have in the White House. I find it appalling that the media, when we have all of the important things that are going on, a list of top 20s, that the first question at a press briefing would be about QAnon, that I had to actually Google to figure out what it is. It's not a central part of what the president is talking about. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know that it's credible. But I can't tell. No, Chris.
It's not my first question.
Well, I know. But it is your question that you're bringing it up, and it's ridiculous. If you want to talk about conspiracy, let's get back to talking about how the FBI and others within the FBI spy on the Trump campaign. I'll be glad to speak about that.
I got 30 seconds here. So the point is, it's a hate group. It's a group that is called by the FBI a domestic
I can tell you that the president is not for hate, so I can tell you that if it's a hate group that is there, let's look at domestic terrorism and look at Antifa and a number of other areas and quit spending time on something that 81% of Republicans don't even know what you're talking about.
Wrecked.
I think just
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. That's what's so beautiful about this happening. And I don't know how far along this was planned to have, this movement do these things, but they're over here calling us patriots that just want the truth out. We want people investigated. We work out theories amongst ourselves, but we do it publicly. And they're wanting to call us crazy conspiracy theorists during a time they're having to defend conspiracies that actually have happened over the last 3 or 4 years, and even further past that. So for Meadows and anybody else, they could just step back and be like, well, that Q stuff isn't important right now. Yeah. We need to focus on these other things that are actually conspiracy theories. So you have them, the compare and contrast situation drops the mainstream media down to where they need to be wearing tinfoil hats, and it's beautiful to watch happen.
Yeah. They're trying to spin it in such a way that they can control the narrative. They can paint us as, being haters and, racists. And if Meadows had allowed him to get the satisfaction of getting a yes or a no or a condemnation, then Chris Wallace and the other Never Trumpers at Fox News, they could have took it and spun it. But instead, he pointed the finger directly where they need to actually go. Why is there no talk about Antifa? Why is there no talk about these rioters that are taking place, and destroying minority-owned businesses all across the country? I mean, everything that they need to be focusing on, they are refusing to do so. Nobody wants to talk about the true nature of what happened to President Trump and how they tried to destroy him. Okay, well, he's just going to put it in their face, and he's going to force them to go ahead and take a look. He's not going to give Chris Wallace the satisfaction. Craig?
Yeah, it's I hadn't seen that clip before, and I was laughing when I was watching it because it's so absurd, the things they say. And it's obviously absurd to us, but if someone buys the question of Q, well, he said it's a hate group. It's a hate group. Okay, I like to know where you're getting this idea that Q is a hate group. Why do you think that? Where in the drops does it say that? And I think it's brilliant that Mark Meadows and POTUS and whoever else are going, well, I don't know, and then as you guys were saying, as Mark Meadows said, why don't we look at what's actually we know are causing real, in the physical world, problems, violence, frustrations at best for people that are serious crimes of Antifa and others. And he's just going to let them spin their wheels endlessly and bring more attention via the Streisand effect, for which people can go, oh, this is strange. They're saying there's this behind the scenes movement. That's weird. And people buy the fake news, but that's why we're here to say, why do you think it's a hate group? Where is the evidence of that? Oh, one-off person. Oh, well, that's one person. Look at the groups of people, the massive groups of people assembling in Portland and burning down buildings or taking over areas to create anarchy or shining flashlights in people's houses and screaming in the middle of the night in the suburbs. It's you don't see groups of few people doing that. And they're gonna try, but I think they're gonna keep spinning their wheels and making it worse for themselves.
The worst thing that I've seen has been people trolling Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, but I mean, I'm sorry, you guys had a couple of hot takes on kids over the years. I mean, it's going to happen. It's like what happened to James Gunn. Sadly, I love his movies, but I don't really care for him personally. Unfortunately, that's just how it is in Hollywood. And if these people are going to set themselves up for that, then they might as well just get used to it. Now, we've got 5,300 people here, 1,927 likes. You guys, please, YouTube has updated the app. It's no longer a blue thumb. It's now like a white or a black thumb, depending on what type of device you have, or if you've done the update. If you haven't, then it's still blue. Please consider liking it and helping us get this out. We've still got over an hour left, so if you could share this on your favorite social media platform, I would really appreciate it, and I'm sure the boys would too. Now, speaking about hate groups, we have a story that came out this weekend about one and now two women on the left who attacked a 7-year-old Trump supporter, a 7-year-old boy. I mean, Craig, you want to talk about hate, okay? I mean, here it is personified. I mean, I have never heard of anybody on the right going and attacking a child at a rally for an opposing political view.
No, they've trained people to not think about people as people when they are programmed to think certain things are bad. It's just like in 1984, the 2 minutes of hate. Oh, this is bad. Get your anger out on them. And that has been trained. That has been focused on people who like Trump or support Trump. Number one, most hated person or whatever our favorite Anon says. Number two, behind that is Q. So they know that it's a threat to the current guard and they are afraid of it. So they've taken the programming and gotten people to dehumanize anybody who is a Trump supporter. You can hear the Antifa people saying, we're here to punch some Nazis. They associate it with basically unperson. They don't see us as humans anymore, and that is from the abuse and trauma they give us as children through any possible means they possibly can to make it such that we hate ourselves. Not all of us, but that's what they try and make us do. They try and make us hate ourselves, and they try and make us see people that are that they classify as the enemy as not human. So they can do it. They can go out there, and you may have seen the guy who kicked someone in the head brutally. That was one of the most brutal videos I've ever seen. Oh, same thing with the kid. And it's like, how can they do this? Well, they don't see us as humans.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was the follow-up to this to that story right here. That poor man in Portland, the trucker, his girlfriend, or maybe just another woman or a trans woman, I don't know who, she was being attacked. She was being robbed. He stopped his truck. He got out. He tried to intervene, tried to save her. And he was surrounded and attacked by a group of vicious thugs in Portland. He was sitting there on the ground in a daze, and this real jerk named Marquise Love or something like that came around and just sucker kicked him in the face. The guy flew back, and it was clear that he was in a really bad position. Well, the good news is that there was also an arrest made in this case. Marquise Love, he's 25. He's been charged with felonious assault, coercion, and riot participation, and he turned himself in, according to the Portland police. Now, this is a situation. We know that Portland has been just notoriously lackadaisical with these cases. They've been letting people out. They've been declining to charge them. I don't think they can afford to not charge this guy in this case, because he really could have killed this guy. Methods, do you got any perspective on this?
Right. Well, I mean, I'm glad that justice is going to come around. We're seeing what we've talked about, especially with Mark Taylor when he comes on, which he'll be on for anybody listening next week, which we're always excited to have. We're seeing evil in real time happen in the streets. This is how, with lawlessness, with corruption, leading people and lying to people, it creates this environment that they feel like it's genuinely okay. And they're in an echo chamber that supports this kind of violence and action. And they get told they're going to get bailed out and stuff, and no telling what's going on in these little circles of people before they go out and do this in the streets. We see the end game stuff. What are they doing behind the scenes, talking and planning and doing all this stuff? So to me, watching videos like with the kid and, all that, it sucks. It sucks to see it happen, but we do need to see what's going on in the world, and the uprising in support for him. They're already getting the kid a new MAGA hat. He's going to be signed by the president. It's already been acknowledged by Eric and Don Jr., if I remember correctly. So we have to deal with the face of evil right now and show that we can overcome it.
Apparently my mom has a new account. Mom, can you put something in the chat, because I don't know why you have a new account and you don't have your wrench. I'll go ahead and take care of that once I see it. But I didn't want to play the video of the kid. I mean, it's sad. I mean, we all know what's happening in these situations. I mean, I don't think that it's necessary for us to watch it here. We always want to try to keep it as positive as we possibly can. We know these people are evil. We know that they have, they don't see us as human beings. She hasn't texted me yet. Okay. They don't see us as human beings. They see us as objects. They see us as, I guess, a political movement that they don't agree with. And, it's unfortunate, because it makes it difficult to interact with them. The guest I had last night, Judith Rose, she was a former leftist, and I guess, she's still pretty, she's socially liberal, I guess, if I had to guess. We didn't get into everything about her politics, but she understands that President Trump is not the demon that he's been portrayed as in the mainstream media. He's not a terrible person. He actually is saving people. And, we need to be better people. This is why I always tell people to be kind to each other, to reach out rather than lashing out. Because, something like this, we could maybe, forego it from happening in the future. I mean, I don't ever want to see another guy sitting on the ground who tried to help a woman who was getting robbed, getting kicked in the face. I don't ever want to see another 7-year-old boy getting his MAGA hat ripped off and getting his hand stomped on because he's trying to pick it up off the ground. I'm hoping that these women and this guy can learn their lesson and can realize that, that we are human beings, okay? And that it's okay that we have a difference of opinion. Just because we have a different perspective on the way that we should lead our lives, or that society should be run, it doesn't mean that we need to be taken out behind the woodshed and shot.
Yeah, no doubt. And on the I don't want to call it a silver lining, but Q, our favorite Anonymous, said sometimes you have to show people the truth, and these videos are so viscerally horrible. It's like I didn't play either one of them when I was talking about it on my channel either, because it's just so horrible. And I would, at some point, you have to watch some of these things, but it's not the 5.5 raw vid impossible to defend, but it's violence against children. It's things that people can't defend, and people are seeing what's going on in these cities that have become lawless. They see the downtown smashed. They see people getting tear gas in their living quarters, and businesses being looted and ransacked, and violence against children and people that are simply trying to defend their fellow citizens. And it is making people rethink, these are not just simple peaceful protests. And they also see in the news, they're calling them peaceful protests. You may have seen that video of the one so-called peaceful protest where there's a burning building going on behind the fake news reporter. Things really not gotten too unruly here. It's mostly peaceful. They've got a building on fire. So I think that people are seeing what's going on, and it's way more viscerally helpful to change people's minds than just simply telling them these people are Marxists, which they are. But
now Hiccup 911 says reasoning with a psychopath, no chance. That's an overly simplistic way to look at it. I mean, all of these people are brainwashed, okay? Just because they've been brainwashed doesn't necessarily mean that they are psychopaths. Do psychopaths exist? Are they out there? Absolutely, okay? But we have to give people the benefit of the doubt, and also never forget that these people have been lied to in the same way that we have been lied to. I know there are people here who were formerly on the left and who have, now realized the truth of the situation, and they have a different political viewpoint. So, never give up on somebody. Always give them an opportunity to see the light, because otherwise it will just continue to be a violent and disturbing world, and that's not what I want for the future of this country. Now, here is an example of somebody who I think actually is most certainly a psychopath. There was also an 80-year-old grandfather who was beaten and robbed in a grocery store bathroom, and it was by a young man. They have apprehended him. This 80-year-old grandfather, he had 16 grandchildren. This is in Lancaster, California, and the perpetrator was a 20-year-old man named Demarius Wade. Now, anybody that's going to beat and rob an 80-year-old guy in a bathroom at a grocery store, I think clearly is beyond reproach. You're not going to be able to save them. There's nothing you can do to rehabilitate them. Maybe help them to see the error of their ways through a lengthy prison sentence and the treatment that you're going to receive while you're in prison. But once they've gotten to that point, it's too far gone. And again, this is the kind of behavior that I want to be able to avoid in the future. And with these people out of power, I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to do it. We have to take back that mechanism, of propaganda, for lack of a better word. We have to be the ones sharing and spreading information. And not propaganda in a negative sense, but just in the basic sense of the word. Just blanket information. We have to push out as much good info and help people see the truth of the world and how things work and how much they've been lied to over the course of their entire lives.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the truth is actually, it's a painful pill to swallow. Here comes the pain, we've heard many times. But we're going to get to a situation, I think, where... And people avoid the truth, I think, because they subconsciously know it's painful, because sometimes they'll go a little bit down the rabbit hole of the truth and they'll see how painful it truly is to dig into these things, and they'll avoid it, and they'll go back to the much more comfortable life of whatever is easy to get along, whatever position is easy, whatever relationships are easy. But I think we're getting to a point soon where it's going to be not quite as easy to stay in that mode, because there'll be less and less people who are sticking around in the blue-pilled world. And as you get a critical mass of red-pilled people, I think it's going to start to look a little more attractive to go, it looks painful to go there, but I'm stuck over here with all these blue-pilled people, and they'll go over there. And it's nicer over there. Once you get through the initial pain, I think anybody who's been red-pilled, I know I know the experience and have seen other people go through it. When you go through it, it's kind of horrible, and you realize some really nasty truths. But on the other side, it's nice. Your life has less anxiety, and in ways sometimes it has more. But overall, it feels like you're standing in much more solid ground, and you realize why there was a lot of confusion before. And it's overall, it's a nicer time. So helping people see that, I think I think they're going to be more accepting to that, and I think it's going to be a nicer world overall when people start to go in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, initially it is definitely earth-shattering. You know, I mean, when you have your entire paradigm smashed and you start to, really get a handle on everything that's been happening, a lot of people do kind of fall apart. You know, I mean, drugs and alcohol is an easy thing to turn to so that you don't have to deal with the true nature of everything. But once you get yourself settled and you realize that, things are actually much better because I do know the truth and I understand what's going on, and you have the toolkit to be able to sort through all of these things. This guy who beat this old man, or the guy who shot Cannon Hinton the other day in his front yard, maybe they were never. Maybe there was no hope for them ever, okay? Maybe nobody could have ever helped them. Maybe they were psychopaths from, the day they were born. Or maybe they were mistreated as children. Maybe terrible things happened to them. Maybe they were conditioned to become these hardcore killers. I don't know, but what I want is for the world to be a better place so that people like that don't end up existing. We've got to make it better for these people. And the only way to do that is to get rid of the cabal. That's the only thing we can do.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Beth. You're going to say something.
No, I was just going to agree with what you guys were saying. And just before I forget, not to kill what we're talking about, right after this show tonight, our President Trump is going to be on Fox News with Steve Hilton. He's going to be interviewed. I don't know if it's pre-recorded. I imagine it is. But just want to make sure everybody knows right after this, if you've got Fox News or another way to watch it, you can go straight from this show to that. And we've got about 5,300 people here hanging out with us. I know Red Pill stole my line earlier. That's fine. I'm over it. 2.7 thousand likes. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue, that would be great. And thank you for hitting us up on PayPal and Cash App.
Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So, to my point earlier, I was talking about the Democratic National Convention. I mean, it was a real thing to see this week. Absolutely. Just these people are so out of touch. What was really shocking to me was some of the footage from during the day, the stuff that wasn't broadcast on the major mainstream media networks, the stuff that was only on YouTube. We talked about it earlier in the week. They had to duplicate some people in Zoom so it looked like there was a full room of people that wanted to watch Kamala Harris. There was gender-neutral unicorns that were there talking about ending the police and the prison system and getting rid of ICE. I mean, all of it, all the worst things you could possibly think. Well, Joe Biden gave his acceptance speech. And Simone just made an appearance, guys. The ghost cat does exist. So Joe Biden made his acceptance speech, and all of the talking heads, after they heard him, they were like, it was the best speech Joe Biden ever gave in his entire political career. And everybody was fawning over him. They were like, Joe Biden became president today. Well, it turns out that Joe Biden's speech was actually the exact same speech that he gave 20 years ago or something like that. Or was it just during 2008? Craig?
Oh yeah, I think it was. I think it was 2008 actually, and it was so word for word. And he also looked a lot more together, giving it at the time. He seemed, although he's, I don't know if they pumped him full of stimulants or what, but he seemed good for JB at the current era. But the whole Democratic convention, I mean, the thing with the guy in the goofy outfit with the odd colored flag, I couldn't believe what I was. I literally checked 3 times to see, is this really, am I looking at the right thing when I saw this tweeted? Is this actually the official DNC convention account that tweeted this out and was proud of it? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And it was just, it's like I don't know, it's really resembling the kind of output you'd see from a socialist propaganda regime that they're trying to pass off as entertainment. They're so out of touch. And in order to be artistic and humorous, you have to be able to let your mind go wherever it takes you. And they have a very rigid area in which they can think. And they are They are not the party of fun and creativity any longer. They may have once had the artists on their side, but I think the good artists are leaving in droves, and I couldn't believe it. I can't believe how much how ridiculous it is. The repeat, as you're talking about the repeated Zoom thing or Red Pill, either one of you, it's amazing. It's totally amazing.
Yeah, well, when I didn't watch, full disclosure, I didn't watch a minute of that convention live. I was like, I'll get the clips. I'm going to enjoy my evenings. But just like you, so I get up in the morning and I'm catching up on everything. And I see that clip of the dude at the end of the singing and the cape that he had, whatever he was wearing. And I'm thinking, like, how did they already knock out a parody of something and film it with this quality and have it on Twitter and it's already going viral? And then I looked around and I saw the verified Democrat, the blue check people out there sharing it and talking about how awesome it is. And I was like, what world did we wake up into? And to the point earlier, Red Pill, that you were saying about his speech, Biden's speech, like, you all caught Van Jones and what he said after the speech, right? Like, he said on CNN, did you catch that, Red Pill?
I saw a clip, but I don't remember anything about what came out of his mouth.
He was talking about how they were prepared to come out and basically lie about how good it was, but it was actually good. Like, they were surprised. It's like, that's a win. That's a win for the left when they're like, we don't have to actually fluff something to make it sound as great as we want it to sound. Wow. And he said it on TV, like everybody should get it. And that's basically the state of the media right now. They have to basically take garbage and put a nice bow on it and present it to the public and hope that they at least buy it. And it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, they're failing miserably. I feel like every time we look at the news, what they are talking about in terms of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, their level of enthusiasm and pride, I know that as soon as those cameras turn off, they're like, oh, God, I had to do it again. Like, is anybody buying this? Who is watching? I wish we had some of CNN's ratings pulled up here, some reported ratings for the DNC, because I can't imagine their viewership was very high, and Craig, did you see that they had Elizabeth Warren doing the speech to the Native American caucus for the DNC?
No.
How offensive. I mean, I can't believe the gall of these people. And they had to shut the chat off because people were in there putting snakes and calling her Liawatha.
Right.
Oh yeah. They left the chat on I think officially the Democrat channel on YT for a while, and I caught like the first few minutes of it. It was so much Trump, pro-Trump.
Yeah,
there was a few 17th letter of the alphabets in there. I saw, to be fair, I did see one dumb Trump. I tweeted a clip of it out, but was overwhelmingly Trump, and I think there was 3,000 plus thumbs up for 1,000 plus thumbs down. And they shut it off within, like, between the time of me screen capping that video and posting it on Twitter, they'd already shut the chat off because they wouldn't want people to know what people really think.
Well, they were also manipulating the likes and dislikes on the videos as well. Just the news, like, they actually checked at one point, and the number of dislikes mysteriously dropped precipitously within hours. So YouTube was going in there and removing dislikes from Joe Biden, his speech, and other people's speeches that they were giving. So, I mean, it's just so clear. I mean, they've got a base, but the size of that base is marginal in comparison to the base that we have over here on this side.
Yeah, and that goes to the rule of thumb here, and why they don't want, the awakening to be happening, is because we see all this stuff, and they would have tried to get away with it. They probably did many times before. They just delete likes or dislikes, get rid of chat boards, and not allow those things to happen. But the rule of thumb, I'll give you a really quick lesson out there. If you guys don't know, when you see something like that, and you're like, oh, this is interesting, screen cap first, then react and do whatever you're going to do. Make sure you grab it, because they're changing things in real time. They're rewriting history while history is writing itself. And that's why we screen cap things real quick. We take them to archive websites. We make it available. We dump it on 8kun, anywhere else, Twitter. We share it with friends, because we know that they try to make it just disappear. And they end up in things like Daily Caller and Gateway Pundit articles and stuff, and they can't get away from it at that point.
Well, Method, since you didn't see any of the DNC, I just want to play this clip of Joe Biden's speech. They took the speech from 2008 and they combined it with the speech from 2020. And let me just do this.
Full disclosure, I'll probably tune this out too, but that's fine.
Okay, here we go.
Barack Obama has worked his way up. He is the great American story.
Senator Kamala Harris, she's a powerful voice for this nation. Her story is the American story.
That work is more than a paycheck. It's dignity.
A job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity.
It's respect. It's about whether or not you can look your child in the eye and say, we're going to be all right.
It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it.
My dad who fell on hard times.
You know, my dad was an honorable, decent man. He got knocked down a few times pretty hard.
Always told me, though, champ, when you get knocked down, get up. Get up.
But he always got back up. He worked hard, and he built a great middle-class life for our family.
And why he'll make college more affordable. That's the change we need.
And where cost doesn't prevent young people from going to college, and student debt doesn't crush them when they get out.
Barack Obama will transform the economy by making alternative energy a national priority.
An opportunity for America to lead the world in clean energy and create millions of new, good-paying jobs in the process.
And in the process, creating 5 million new jobs.
With 5 million new manufacturing and technology jobs.
Put security back in Social Security.
If I'm your president, we're going to protect Social Security and Medicare.
And he'll never, ever, ever give up until we achieve equal pay for women.
With equal pay for women.
Barack Obama will bring down healthcare costs by $2,500 for the average family.
With a healthcare system that lowers premiums, deductibles, drug prices.
Barack Obama will reform our tax code. He will cut taxes for 95% of the American people who draw a paycheck. That's the change we need.
Because we don't need a tax code that rewards wealth more than it rewards work.
Folks, remember when the world used to trust us? When they looked to us for leadership?
I'll be a president who will stand with our allies and friends and make it clear to our adversaries the days of cozying up to dictators is over.
We will hold Russia accountable for its actions.
Under President Biden, America will not turn a blind eye to Russian bounties on the heads of American soldiers.
The American people are ready. I am ready. Barack is ready.
So the question for us is simple. Are we ready? I believe we are.
And this is the time as Americans together. We get back up together.
Let us begin, you and I together.
This is our time. This is America's time.
This is our moment to make hope and history rhyme.
It defines who we are as a people. And now it's in jeopardy. I know it. You know it.
You know, all elections are important. We know in our bones this one is more consequential.
These are extraordinary times. This is an extraordinary election.
And now history has delivered us to one of the most difficult moments America's ever faced.
That's the America that George Bush has left us. And that's the America we'll continue to get if John McCain is elected President of the United States of America.
If he's given 4 more years, he'll be what he's been for the last 4 years.
Our debt to our parents and our grandparents is too great. Our obligation to our children is too sacred.
For you, your family, your children?
This is how little they respect the American public. I mean, for them to perpetrate the exact same ruse, you know, in this election right here, pretending that, you know, all of these buzzwords that they've used on a number of occasions. I'm sure this is not the only time that Joe Biden has used these tropes trying to convince the American people. But for them to not think about the possibility of somebody going back and digging this up and putting it together, I mean, they just assume that people are going to hear these same old tired political tropes and they're going to say, yes, it's time for Joe Biden. It's time for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
He's even more annoying at double speed. I think that's possible. But yeah, go ahead, Craig.
Oh yeah, it's so perfect. It really illustrates how they act because it was a bunch of lies then. Oh, we're going to lower your healthcare premiums. Okay, well, why did mine double then? Why did everyone else that I've talked to double? It's all just this. It's all they've got is talk. It's all they have is false hope. They say hope, but how? We don't question how. We've been taught in school since we were 4 or 5 years old to just recite the facts. This is what you need to know. Regurgitate this. People say, oh, hope. We want hope. We don't like the old guard. We don't like George W. Bush. So now let's get this guy who's making politics cool again. And we've been told to hate Trump. So now let's get this same guy again who lied to us the last 8 years and didn't do what he said. But the media told us he did. They told us he was great for the economy because they pumped it up and we're going to crash it again. Told us they helped healthcare even though the cost went way up. Told us that they were going to stop Bush's wars even though the wars continued and nobody even notices. Nobody even noticed. I mean, not nobody. Plenty of people. Patriots are noticing big time, more and more every day. But those who are under the fake news spell, nobody notices. So they can repeat these things. And like you said, they don't respect us. And they thought we were stupid. They were projecting about who was stupid. They didn't realize the human spirit within us to go, wait a second, I am not buying this. Wait a second, I'm going to take a video of this. Methods like you were saying, take a video. I see it. I'm posting it. That was by Power Tie. All these things are just getting out there and we're exposing them every single day. And it's hilarious.
They can no longer perpetrate this fraud on the American public. I just need to do a couple of quick thank yous. From our Cloaked Unseen World, Q Song Graze by Tav on YouTube should be a Billboard #1. So amazing. Drop the link. I can't pull the link from here, but looks like Kellyanne Hub News has played it as well. I'll see. I have to do some stuff to be able to grab that. So our Cloaked Unseen World, I will go ahead and try. Let's see. Robert says, what are your thoughts on presidential term limits being applied to spouses? Should Hillary and Michael be disqualified from being POTUS in the future for having previously been First Lady and Dude, respectively? Seems like some George Wallace shenanigans to me. Love ya. No Cuomo. Rob. I've never actually thought about it. I mean, I guess I've always considered the presidential spouses to be, a person, unto themselves. So I guess I don't, in theory, think that they should necessarily be disqualified for having been married to a former president. I mean, what do you guys think?
I would say I don't see that as a problem, but I do think that we need to quit using the endorsement of that being why they should be elected as president. Mm-hmm. I think that's a problem, all because Hillary, was married to the president and was there around it, doesn't fully justify her for being candidate. Because we hear that that's what they did with her campaign. So, or at least a few that she failed at.
Well, it's also arguable that perhaps Hillary Clinton was really the president all along. I mean, Bill Clinton, he seems kind of like like a weak-kneed boy who likes to get his fingers in a lot of pies, if you know what I mean, and he's willing to do what anybody is going to make him do because they've got blackmail material on him. And I've always heard that Hillary Clinton was the one who was power hungry. She was the one who wanted to get Bill into office, and then that would put her in the public square so that she could get the name recognition, and then she would be president. As soon as he was done being president, she immediately killed JFK Jr. and then ended up in Congress, and then, you saw her several unsuccessful runs for the presidency. Craig, what do you think about that?
Yeah, Bill Clinton reminds me of like a frat guy who's at college to party, and he's got a girlfriend who writes his term papers for him, and he's just stoked to play beer pong on Friday night. Yeah. And she's like, we gotta take this. You gotta get your degree. And Hillary's saying, oh, we gotta get this power. So I think that is an accurate assessment. She does seem like the power hungry one. What were we just? What did we just lead into this with a minute ago?
We were talking
about the Biden speech.
Yeah.
Oh, the Biden speech. Okay. No, I didn't have anything else about that. But
okay, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Kamala, too, in just a second. Also, Judith, hey, Jude, excuse me. She said Daily Wire is reporting Kim Jong-un in a coma. Evil sister in charge. Is this a rerun? This is not the first time we've gotten some news coming out of North Korea or, perhaps from some, mainstream media sources trying to make it sound like Kim Jong-un is in ill health. I did hear a couple days ago that he gave some power to his sister over a couple of things, including, relations with America. And then earlier today, I did read that he is in a coma. Now, obviously, we don't have a picture of Kim Jong-un in a coma. This could be another situation where this information is, leaked on purpose, and then they want to see who's going to give it to the American press so they know who to take out behind the woodshed. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so much news come out of there that it turns out to be, pretty much fake or unreliable. All the talk of, Trump's going to go to war with them. I don't trust a word we hear until we see the actual source or get a statement from a very trusted source. Then I'd be more inclined to believe it. But I don't see, it could be the case. It could not be, but I don't see much worth in giving too much effort to it until we find out, because they're always trying to fake us out with this stuff.
Right. Yeah, 100%. That's the same. Like, what we have tangible is when Trump went there and he crossed the border and did that, that walk back and forth type thing going on. We have that to watch, but then we hear all these things going on. And when I did read that article, I had to check and make sure it wasn't April again, because we already went through this.
Yeah. Chris Hawkins says, we are holding a big win with the question finally being asked this week. We have a great opportunity to show them who we are and love. Who we are and love. We love each other. We love our enemies. That is how we would destroy them. Let's show the prostitutes how much better we are at their job. As we usher in love, we do not prostitute hate. Not my joke. Shout out to Abe's chat. I love y'all. Okay, yeah, and that's to our conversation earlier. I obviously completely agree. Thank you very much, Chris. Thomas says, flags out Patriots. Love your show and your guests. Always informative and positive. Keep it up. Do you think we will see RBG anytime soon? Yeah, man, that's a question for the ages, Tom. I mean, Craig, RBG, this is another one that they continually trot out. I mean, every couple of months, she's miraculously recovering from something that would kill a far lesser man or woman.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the silver lining is whatever they've got that's keeping her alive, maybe that's going to be released to the rest of us and we'll have longer life than we ever expected. So yeah. I don't know what's going on there, but it's interesting. I don't know if she will be there in 4 more years or what the odds are of that. I'm not going to speculate on her health. It seems like she is miraculously healthy and being pumped full of something. In fact, I think our favorite Anon alluded to that fact at one point, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, watch her blood, like after she passes, like be what cures the Rona. Like that timeline would be fun. But no, I agree. Like they are saving it for something because that will take over television for at least a week.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't get a gold casket, I will also be very confused.
Personally, I think that they are holding off on any announcements about whether or not she's alive or dead. At the very least, they want to make sure that she's alive as long as President Trump is in office. If she is dead, they're not going to tell anybody because they want to keep up this illusion. If she's going to die, they want to make sure that it doesn't happen until after a Democrat comes into office. Because if she is to be publicly pronounced as dead, President Trump would immediately start the process of getting a new Supreme Court justice in there, and then it would be a far different landscape. Thank you to Emily. I appreciate that, Emily. Let's see. Dina says the best is yet to come. Where we go one, we go all. I can't agree more. And Catherine, thank you very much, Catherine. I appreciate that. And then the next story that I wanted to talk about was the Kamala Harris prank phone call. We have some Russian pranksters. I love these guys. They are notorious for calling Democrats and pretending to be, a variety of people. They called... I think they called Adam Schiff and pretended to be some Ukrainian government people, or maybe they were supposed to be Russians. I don't know, but they said that they had the P-tape on Trump, and Adam Schiff totally wanted it. Well, now they've called Kamala Harris, and it's worth noting that this took place back in January. Now, we don't know whether or not Kamala was aware that she was going to be the VP pick back in January, but this was just shortly before she dropped out of the race entirely because she had a very anemic performance. But they called her and they pretended to be Greta Thunberg and her father. And they got, I'm so surprised that these guys are continually able to get through to these senators and congressmen directly. I would think if, one of us called and said, hey, Adam Schiff, this is Steve Gutenberg, can I speak to you? Somebody, it doesn't matter who it is, but I can't imagine that they would just hand the phone over to Adam Schiff. What is the protocol for getting through to a sitting congressman or a vice presidential candidate? How did they do this?
It's pretty funny because if you listen to the clip, you can imagine the assistant or whoever, they just hear the accent lines up, so let me hand over the phone. But Greta in that phone call sounds all of 30.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me, but she sounds definitely older. I'm surprised she bought it. It's a longer clip. I don't know if you're going to play it.
I will. I wanted to set it up and get thoughts from you guys first.
All right. Just remember that we got a couple notes that Craig wanted to go over.
Yeah.
Before we get done with the show.
That's fine. Okay, Craig, what are your thoughts on this?
On Greta, that they got through, it really gives credence to the fact that these people are stupid. You would think that they would be looking out for this, but they have gaffes on a daily basis. Joe Biden accuses people of smoking crack, essentially, when they ask if he takes the mental fitness test, and then he can't even finish saying the word mental fitness test. So
mental fitness.
Yeah, mental, exactly. They have a hard enough time keeping track of their rear end from their elbow. So I think they don't have controls in place to do this. I think it was probably what you guys were saying, that she sounds Swedish, and Greta's Swedish, so, and wasn't that cool? Oh my God, Greta Thunberg, wow. And so I think it's just being talked after these people are stupid.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a listen to this, and let me cue it up so you guys can hear it too. Personally, I think it points to their desperation. The fact that they are willing to take a fake call from Greta Thunberg impersonator to get dirt on Trump.
Hi.
Hi, Kamala.
Hello,
Greta.
Congratulations on all of your leadership. I'm so inspired by your courage and your voice.
It would be cool to support you in your campaign. Or what is the best way to do it?
The best way to do it would be to talk about my climate plan. You know what I can do is I can ask my policy team to follow up with you with more detail on what exactly would be helpful and what is something that you would like to do. And then we can talk about more detail about how that can work. And that would be very helpful, and I thank you for that.
And by the way, we wrote to many politicians, but not many people respond. How sad it is.
Don't be upset. Recently, even President Putin said about you.
It wasn't what I wanted.
Well, it just highlights the need that we have to be active and that there are forces working against our movement. And we have to fight for these things. And so this is that moment. And you have been a great warrior in this cause.
Also terrified of what Trump is doing. I even can't sleep or eat when I see him on TV. That terrible meeting in the UN building in September, I had nightmares. I saw him in the corridor. I shouted to him to sign the Paris Climate Agreement. He came over. He said softly to me, "You will never achieve the goal." So,
Greta, do not be deterred.
He continued.
Do not be deterred. You have the ability to see what is possible in a way that many do not. And there will be people who are going to work against progress. That is always the case. Always in history, there have been people who work against progress. Listen, nothing that has been achieved in this world that has been about progress came without a fight. This is the nature of it.
But it's very sick to behave like that. I mean, President Trump.
Yes, it is. And it is similar to previous times in history when some people could not imagine how things can be different. And then leaders did imagine and could see it and led. And so you have been a great leader. Do not be deterred.
So Greta has a recorder always with her. And when it happened...
It's in my pocket. Oh, yes.
And it was in Greta's recording now. And so if you would like to get it, we can provide it.
Maybe this recorder can help you. In my side,
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
I can testify against this terrible man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm sorry I have to hang up now, but Josh will follow up with you, and we will stay in touch and work together. And I look forward.
So Josh will follow up. Her assistant will follow up, and they will work together. Now, what is really the big takeaway here is that everything that they have done to try to remove President Trump from the beginning is they're just complete shock and awe that the idea that he would accept help from a foreign government, okay, that he was trying to receive the help of the Russians to take the election and steal it from Hillary Clinton. And here, just in a quick 3-minute call with a really poor impression of Greta Thunberg, and I feel like there was a couple of times where you could hear them like giggling in the background, like they're laughing about what's going on. They can't believe that she bought it hook, line, and sinker. But Kamala Harris, a vice presidential candidate, is willing to accept help from some foreigners to try to take out President Trump. I mean, but will the press talk about it? I don't think so, unfortunately.
It's a foreign, not even that, it's a foreign child.
Yes.
And they're all about it. Let's take it. But no, we're going to have a 3-year investigation into Trump over things. Oh, and then when he has a phone call with the Ukrainian president congratulating him for winning the election,
yep,
we're going to impeach him over that. But no, let's have phone calls with children and that are going to say they have recordings. Yeah, this is stupid. But here we are. That's the whole point of this, is that we have to point out the different, the hypocrisy that's going on here, because it is exactly how it looks. We have to step back and be like, is this serious? Mm-hmm. It is. And they just live in that narrative, It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Well, somebody in the chat said, what happened to Quite Frankly? He's live in 30 minutes at the end of this show. So I don't think anything happened to him. I heard that his stream got cut off the other night, but I mean, that's par for the course. It's happening to a lot of us nowadays. Now, well, Craig, Methods key that up earlier. You had some specific things that you wanted to make sure that we talked about tonight. I mean, what are you seeing in the world that is weighing heavily on the mind of Craig Mason, such a reasonable man?
I do my best. I mean, I definitely have my moments of unreasonableness, especially if you ask my wife, which is fair. It's totally fair.
Right.
But
well, and to be even fairer, that like personal dynamic at home, the husband and wife relationship, the man and woman, it's a completely separate thing from having a live show on YouTube.
Yeah, Miss Methods holds me at a lower bar than the rest of the internet does. I'll just be honest, she keeps me correct, so I hear you on that.
Yeah, just why don't you be like you are on your channel? You're so reasonable there. But what's on my mind is two things mainly. Well, one main thing really is that and I mentioned this earlier, so we've mostly covered it, but they're going to try and derail this any way they can, and we have to be ready. Our favorite on us said, "Be ready," and I think it's be ready to be the news now, to have our facts straight, like that last story with Greta and the fake Greta. And it's like little mini red pills like that, or when they try and do an FF or blame it on someone from this movement, we have to be ready with the facts. We have to be ready beforehand to say they're going to try and do this. I saw a screen cap of someone saying they were trying to do it and then something shady happened. We have to be ready with these memes to be the news now, because it's not just people that are as public as we are right now. It's every single person who's thinking about this and accumulating data and learning to understand it. You are there to be the news, to help your friends when they are going through this painful process of awakening, or if they are lashing out because the fake news told them so. You're there to be as strong as an oak in a storm, not to bend to their every will, but to stand strong through the storm to share this information. So that's really what's on my mind. And also, another topic that I thought was interesting is that the health commissioner in Virginia said that they want to make the injection, I don't know what the best word for that is, the supposed preventative measure for the China virus. They want to make it mandatory, and this person is strongly opposed to an exemption. And with the masks, I've kind of caved on the masks. I think if that's what it takes to have in-person voting, and if the masks work, fine. I'm not totally convinced of that, but fine, I'll wear the mask. But you try and push the vaccine on people, that's where they're going to draw the line, because that's where I draw the line. And I think, a third of Americans, a poll said a third of Americans do not want it. So I think that is way overreach, and that is not going to work. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. Methods, will you please take this away first? I got to grab something I also need to show, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem at all. And I agree with you, Craig. Like, they can't take it that far. Yeah, they're controlling people, and different states have different things going on. I hear you. Here in the South, people that watch this channel know I don't deal with a lot of what we see as the extreme of stuff. I haven't seen one person with a face shield, just as an example. But if I have to wear a mask to go vote for the president of the United States, I'm okay with it. Full disclosure, I was going to a local store that I really like them. They're nice. I just met them from shopping there. And they had the sign on the door that we have to wear masks. Okay. And I've been notorious saying I don't wear it. I don't do it. I just don't go to places. But I saw it. I was like, all right, I want to give these people the business, my business. Let me go ahead and go put on a mask. So I just have one. I went to put it on, and they saw me at the door because the register's closed. And they said, oh, we're just told that you have to put that on. We know you don't want to wear it. Don't worry about it. We just have to have the sign up there so we get left alone. And I didn't. I just put it right back in my pocket. But that's the kind of thing, like, we have to draw the line. When we're talking about putting a needle in your arm, injecting something foreign that wasn't in the body before, that's where people should be able to draw the line, right? Let them die then. If they're going to die without the vaccine, let them die. Let them make the decision. If that's how bad it is, let it be. And let people decide for themselves. But when you get to a point where it becomes mandatory, that's when you get mutiny. That's when you get people in the streets saying, hell no. So that to me is fascinating. Try to pull that down here in the South, and it's not going to go over well.
Yeah, try to pull it anywhere in America overall. I mean, it might go well in the city centers, but the majority of America, a third of Americans don't want it. And you try and pull it anywhere in America overall, people are not going to have it. As you said, it's putting something into your body. It's not wearing a mask. And I hope they don't try it, but I think it's another way Americans are going to peacefully resist and learn our power in the process if they do.
There's absolutely no way that I'm going to allow them to mandatorily vaccinate me or my family. It's not going to happen. I think that it will get pretty rough if that's what happens. I wanted to show two things, so methods, what you said, the same thing. I'll carry this with me and I'll walk in without it, and if they tell me to put it on, then I'll put it on, and then as soon as I'm out of sight, I'll go ahead and take it off. But there's only like one place that I go regularly, like on a daily basis. I go the same place for lunch, like Monday through Friday, and I never wear it in there. I'm always the only person not wearing a mask. Now this is from David A. Look at this. This is a handmade mask. Okay. And so, like, this is the new one that I'm going to wear around. The first one was from Real Red Pill Girlfriend, Trump Keep America Great 2020. This new one from David is the one that I'm going to keep in my pocket, and we'll see what they think about it when I pull that one out of my pocket and wear that in a store. But yeah, I think that isn't it like a civil rights issue? I mean, people should not be forced to get their a form of health care that they don't want. I mean, like, I guess that they they already have mandatory ones, don't they? I mean, there are some when you're a baby that they force people to take, like polio and stuff.
Yeah, I think in most states anyway, you can still get some kind of exemption, be it personal exemption, religious exemption. I know in my state where I live, Washington, they're trying to get rid of it more, but I don't think there's too many people now that are wanting to take their health choices into their own hands. And the thing that really is crazy about trying to force something like this on people is if it works, then it's only my problem if I get it, because if you get it, if you take the treatment and it works, then if you're exposed to me, it shouldn't make a difference. But it is, they've trained us not to use logic in that sense and make us scared. But I think people are not buying that nearly as much as they used to.
Well, I mean, to your point, if it works, I mean, who knows? I mean, you look at something like the measles vax, and I'm sure you guys remember a couple years ago in California, there was a measles outbreak at Disneyland, and I got into it. This is the last time I posted on Facebook. People were up in arms saying, like, the reason that we have this outbreak is because of people not getting their kids vaccinated. And I was like, well, if you actually look at the science, then you'll find that, it's only so effective. And if you get the vaccine, you can still contract and transmit measles to people who have also received it. So that's not what's happening here. And I posted like the white paper about the efficacy and how likely it was to actually work. And everybody said that I was fake news. It was at the very beginning of the whole fake news, kerfuffle when people were saying it about everything. And I mean, it just goes to show that people are brainwashed, and I mean, like, if you want to be brainwashed and get yourself this shot, then go for it. But I'm not willing to do it, and I'm and if I don't get it, then I'm either going to get sick or I'm not. And if you've got it, then maybe you won't get sick. But knowing what I know about them and everything that's in them, I'm not willing to go ahead and do it. So over my cold dead body.
Absolutely. And if, I don't think it would be fair to do so, but I'd rather say, okay, fine. If I get it, then you don't have to treat me. And if I go, I go. But it's, I'm way less concerned. I'm way less concerned about that than other potential effects. And I won't go on a whole rant about that. I'm sure people can do their own research, but they've really stepped up the push for these kinds of things over the course of our lifetimes. If you compare what people get today when they're young versus what we got when we were born in the in the mid to later, probably later part of the 20th century, but it just keeps going up and up and up and up in terms of what they're trying to do. They incrementalize everything.
Imagine them still having full-blown control of the wheel, like as in Hillary got elected in, God forbid. But having that world, we would have lost more and more stuff going on, and they would have had the manipulation going on for the people to accept it. And that's the problem that we deal with, because we could sit here and say, all right, we don't have to wear masks in certain states or all this stuff. It's not required in some places. But then you get that one person, and I'll just say person instead of being, I'll say jerk, that works at a business or something, and they make a thing out of it anyways. And that gets into the whole thing about how you have to speak up for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself and say, no, I'm not doing this. Because even if it's statewide mandated for whatever reason, you still have to stand up for yourself in certain cases. And you also are going to have those people that just want to be jerks. It's the world they live in. It's a power control thing and all that. So each situation is different, and that's why this whole thing is a mess. Asking people to cover their faces, put on shields, you can't work unless you have this type of job. You're going around everywhere and you're just trying to live your life. At some point, it just becomes too much. And we're already past that point. And that's why I'm grateful that we know a lot of this is because of the election. They want to have the mail-in ballots. They have to justify it. They're dying on this mountain of needing that wear masks and, the virus being around. Let's get past this election and see what they really do, because they have no real purpose for it at that point, right?
Yeah. Once the election's over, I think a lot of this stuff is going to go ahead and just fade into the background. So, to a certain point, I feel like it's a moot argument. I mean, there's only so much discussion we can have about it, because either it's going to make a difference or it's not. And as of right now, it's not affecting me at all, because I'm just going to continue to live my life. And so far, I've only been told to wear a mask in one business that I've entered without one. So, I feel like I'm doing pretty good so far. And usually, I have to take my mask off anyways, because I'll just pay for something with my phone. I got my bank card connected to my phone, and it only works when it sees your face. So I have to take it off anyways, and then I just leave it off. So.
No, I get it. I'm also curious that, if from people that legitimately got the Rona, and we'll even just talk about, the death count from it, what were they registered for voting? Because if a lot of, we can assume that the left would definitely be wearing masks. They would support it. They would support the narrative. They're the ones driving with the mask on and their windows closed, all that stuff. Even they have their pets wearing jugs over their heads or some crazy stuff we see on the internet. I'd be curious to see what those numbers look like, and I'm sure we'll never see it. But to me, it's like, did it really even matter at all if they have those genuine things? And we had it earlier from that press conference. We had, they're doing the plasma thing. I'm not going to act like a Dr. Fairy in this conversation, but they're going to, do the whole donating plasma from people who have, previously gotten the Rona because of the antibodies involved in it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's great news.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it, because it's yet another option. And it was also brought up in the press conference, and I don't remember who the guy was. If somebody will DM me the Twitter account of the reporter that brought up the options of right to try during the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Because that right there is fascinating and needs to be said. Even Trump stood back and said that was great, because we should be able to have the right to try even in this, right? You should be able to take HCQ. You should be able to take anything you want. You don't care. It doesn't matter. Do what you need to do that you think is going to help. But I wonder, and I brought this up on Twitter, and a lot of people said they had the same thing, so I'm not going to act like I'm the genius with it. How much, if they're okay, so if people are donating blood while they're being diagnosed with the corona, or they said that they were, and they go donate to help, because that's the push right now, then how many of them are going to be told, or how many of them are going to just show up not ever having it?
That's fascinating. That's a great point. Yeah,
that's the numbers, right? What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of doesn't totally check out with the narrative they're saying, with this being as dangerous as it is and as widespread as it is. And the right to try question, that was so interesting that someone brought that up. It makes a lot of sense. And why do they fight so hard on the alternative cures? Why do they fight so hard? And it's kind of like the masks, that it almost feels like I don't even want to bring up these things because they get hated so much. And I don't know when it's going to come out, if it's going to come out. But you mentioned the HC17, and you can look, and it seems like there's credible evidence that suggests that there may be some usefulness there. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell anybody they should take it. It's between them and their doctor and the law, as it were. Everyone should be prescribed if they're going to take it, whatever the case is. But it's amazing that it seems like there's so much evidence for these things, but it gets hated on so much. And I think that, our favorite Anon said, not everything will be clean. We have the cures. Thanks, CQ. I think it's going to be interesting to see if and when that more information on that comes out. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, in my mind, the reason that they want to throw so much shade on these alternatives is because it takes away any hope that people might have that there is an answer out there. I mean, if they can keep it so that the only answer is a vax, the only answer is a vax, and anything else is fake news, then they can suppress all of that, and they know how long it takes to create a vax, I mean, whether or not they're doing it in the proper way. I mean, really, it should take, quite a long time, but the idea that they're going to pump it out and it's going to be safe in this short amount of time is just, it's a fairy tale. But if they can make people believe that, and then they can go ahead and get them to take it, and then maybe that makes them sicker, then they have something else to keep people, in fear over, once the threat of CV-19 is no longer here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying real quick, think about, because the agenda here, this is the bigger picture. Even POTUS brought it up about the enemies of him going after Big Pharma. What's the number one commercial you see during mainstream media? Or at least the topic itself. It's medicine, right? That to me, or at least it's very common about that. That's a big business on a global scale. Mm-hmm. And we talked about before, pharmakia is a thing, but we definitely don't have time to get into that. But they cannot even let the door remotely crack on having alternative options than what they prescribe in doctors' offices and the big business itself that it is. How much do we ever know how much it costs to have a commercial during primetime news? I mean, I heard it back in the day and it was like $50,000, and I imagine it's more than that now.
It all depends on the time of day and the show that it's airing during. So, I mean, regardless, I think it's probably in the tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, it would be very expensive to run a commercial on a mainstream channel like that.
Right. Yeah, and you get my point. Like that right there is so important. So opening the door at all to having alternative cures, alternative ways of living life. Why have they not said anything about living healthier or different ways to do it? Why are we not getting those like bullet points on what we need to live that way?
No, because then there's no need for us to take medicines to manage our daily aches and pains. I mean, if we're healthy, then there's no way that they can market all of these various drugs to us. I mean, healthy living, taking care of your body. I mean, that truly is the answer. I mean, I try to take as few medicines as possible, and I mean, it's only when I'm I guess pushed to the very brink that I do. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who if they get sick, if they start feeling sick, they immediately reach for the bottle. They immediately reach for a packet of Theraflu or whatever it is, and whatever, that's a personal choice. I don't like to do that. I try to stay away from it because I know it's a racket.
Yeah, and it's such a racket. I was just, as I was listening to this, I thought, I'll just look up the financial statements of, I won't even name the company, but a big name you've heard of in the pharmaceutical industry. And they have $50 billion in revenue a year, on which they make $14 billion, one company. And it's a very vicious cycle for us, but to them, they see it as a virtuous cycle because we get more sick, we have more side effects. And if you're of the mindset that you should take more things to cure them, which they've trained us to think, is that whatever the doctor says about take this, whatever the commercial says, ask your doctor about this medicine that you then pay $50 for, and your insurance company pays $800 for, and they are paying lobbyists to get into Congress to write these laws and to make it such that anything that is outside of that in the FDA, they are going to say, oh, that's no good. And it's just such a huge, huge business. And I think it's a very vicious cycle. This is not medical advice, of course, but it is. They make a heck of a lot of money to afford those expensive commercials and then some. And making $14 billion on not even $50 billion of revenue, that's an extremely, extremely profitable business, like way out of the league of most businesses because they have a real racket going.
Have you ever, let me ask the chat in here because I'm curious, because I've caught this before going to the doctor, especially during all this stuff going on. Have you ever been to the doctor and the doctor barely looked you in the eyes? Give me a 1 in the chat, because that's happened to me too, where they literally are looking at the checkboard. They don't pay attention to me. They ask me just a few questions. I answer and they seem like they didn't care. I could have said anything. Mm-hmm. And they moved out and came back, and I was handed a prescription by the nurse and sent on my happy way. I'm getting some 1s in the chat now because that lets you know how much it does. There's more of an agenda involved in that, right? I'm not trying to say every doctor is nefarious, but they already have that. Yeah, look at all those 1s. That's the problem. If you're trying to save people with a pill that you're told that's supposed to help you, then why can't you even look the person in the eye who came to you for help? That's a problem, and that's a bigger thing, and that's why things will take longer than just a few years and an election or two, because we have these kind of problems to fix, because we're talking about health. And they have no problem unleashing a virus onto the world.
Troy in the chat wanted to know how CV-19 is counted for life insurance policies. Unfortunately, life insurance companies don't pay out in the event of a pandemic. And I have actually spoken to several people whose relatives' official cause of death was listed as CV-19, whether or not it was legitimate. And they were told by their life insurance companies that they were not going to get a payout as a result. And it's caused some, some anxiety and some problems for them. Real quick, Roger said, trying to figure this out. You did figure it out, Roger. Thank you very much. Also, Hey Jude said, I tried on PayPal and it says pending. This is a duplicate. There's actually several people on PayPal who are showing as pending, and generally that means that PayPal either thinks that I am a terrorist or maybe you might be. So maybe they want you to verify some other information. If that happens, you can always send it on Cash App, even though, there are some despicable people who own Cash App. Unfortunately, that's the way of the world, and every corporation that you look at is going to be affiliated with somebody that I bet you don't like, but they're the only place that has never frozen my account or tried to take my funds that have been donated. So, real quick, we've only got 5 minutes left, but, President Trump has been pretty vocal recently about, the voter fraud issue and what's happening. And obviously the mainstream media, the tech companies, they all want people to believe that vote by mail is completely and totally secure. And Twitter recently censored another tweet by President Trump, this time where he directly referred to it as a voter security disaster. He said, so now the Democrats are using mail drop boxes, which are a voter security disaster. Among other things, they make it possible for a person to vote multiple times, which they do. Also, who controls them? Are they placed in Republican or Democrat areas? I'll give you one guess on that one. And they are not CV-19 sanitized. It's a big fraud. So they censored it, and they said that this tweet violated the Twitter rules about civic and election integrity. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. How close do you think we are to them just full-scale, completely locking down the president's account? I mean, they've already forced him to delete a tweet. Do you guys think that it's going to get worse, or are they just going to continue to draw attention to themselves and do this kind of, half-hearted censorship on him?
Either way, I mean, I think it's unstoppable, because if they actually do go to the point where they say, okay, Trump's banned from Twitter for violating our protocols, that is such a red pill right there to people, because he's going to get on whatever other platform there is, Parler, Twitch, whatever it is, and he's going to still keep saying things directly to the American people. There's going to be a place where people can go that Trump will say in a press conference to confirm it's him. This is my handle at this place. Twitter banned me. Well, he'll probably explain why, but there will be a place where you can go to get Trump's tweets, and people will look at them and they can determine for themselves if it's true or not. But it just really shows where Twitter stands, especially given the things they have allowed on their platform.
Now, I'm just real quick on that point, Ripple. I think Dilly nailed it. I was listening to him over with our buddy 412 on his channel on Taking It Back, and he made the point that Twitter is basically killing themselves by self-inflicted wounds of 1,000 cuts. Like they're deleting all our accounts. We're all making noise about it. They're censoring the president of the United States, who has truth on his side, and he is held back so much that he can say that I imagine he will. Let's get him elected and look at version 2 as far as the Trump administration. It's going to be very interesting. But they are self-inflicting wounds right now with themselves, and we're going to have a world where I think Twitter is just going to fall on its own sword and die. Yeah. I think we're going to go down that road because they've already done enough. They can't recorrect the ship and apologize and that be end of it. They already have too much going on. As soon as they're pushed in the form of being publishers, which are still waiting on those answers from what AG Barr is going to do, that's a different world, because how many people have seen horrific things on Twitter? I've seen hashtags trend on Twitter that were horrible, and I was like, what does this hashtag mean? And I click on it, and it's actual pornography going on at 7 a.m. while I'm drinking coffee. Yeah. That's a publishing problem. So, yeah, I do believe Twitter is going to just take itself out.
All right. Last thing, Craig, how excited are you about the prospect of blockchain voting being implemented by the post office?
Oh, now that is very interesting. It's very interesting that the post office also filed the patent for it in February of 2020, right after
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. So this was a long time ago. Wow. Yeah. It was well before we had any idea of this. And the blockchain, I think it absolutely could be done. It would need to be done in a way that could be scaled, but it would have to make sure that we could somehow identify each person and get them their ability to do so. But it would allow for tracking of what's going on. And I think it's interesting to see. You know, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know how exactly it would be implemented, but it's very interesting that the post office of all places did it. And you can go back and I did a video on my channel called Bitcoin, Q, Gold, and the Fed. And there's just a lot of interesting ties to Q. You can see it in the Fed playlist on my channel. And also check out the Gitmo channel, because he just put out a video the other day that kind of breaks down some of the stuff with blockchain, and he makes some interesting connections there. So I don't know, but I think there certainly seems to be some interesting comms going on there.
All right. Awesome. I think that it could totally work. And if they were thinking about it back in February of 2019, I think that means that the infrastructure has already been created and they're probably just waiting to roll it out. They could just simply connect the records of everybody who's registered to vote in every state, send it out from the post office, one vote, one coin on the blockchain, however you want to work it out. Everybody is part of the ledger and we can verify, and then you can't vote unless you're part of the system. So, Craig, once again, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I absolutely love it when you're on the show. It's a great time. Tell everybody one more time where they can find you. The links are in the description if you don't catch him saying it.
Oh, it's always my pleasure. Thank you for having me on, Red Pill. Thank you, Methods. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And you can check out my channel here on YouTube, link in the description. And I also stream on DLive. I have a show 4 nights a week at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then another show Friday night at the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, with Where We Go One, We Go All channel, aka Brad, aka Kaladro Getz. And we're doing that every Friday. And I'm just looking forward to the endless winning. I'm not tired of it yet, and I don't know if I will be.
Good stuff. All right. Methods, as always, thank you for hosting the show with us. I appreciate you. Thank you to all the mods for keeping the chat comfy. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you to everybody who is directly supporting the show. And thank you if you liked or shared the podcast. We're at 5,000 people still, 3,599 likes, 3,603 likes as we leave the show. I'll be back tomorrow for another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.